No mā haere mai ki tēnei hui. Good morning everyone and welcome to the Community and District Development Committee meeting on Wednesday the 10th of July. Just a reminder that the meeting has been live streamed and you've all got your mobile phones off, and hopefully we'll be able to finish reasonably early this morning. We do have a workshop following this meeting, so I'd like to invite Mayor Tapsell to open our hui with a karakia, please.
Thank you very much. Chair, through you. Tūtawa mai I runga, tūtawa mai I raro, tūtawa mai I roto, tūtawa mai I waho. Kia tauai te mauri tū, te mauri ora ki te katoa, haumi e hui e, tai ki.
Kia ora Mayor Tapsell for our karakia. Are there any apologies for this meeting? Nope. Any declarations of interest, councillors? No. Any urgent items that are not on the agenda? Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of weeks ago, the media did an article and reported that they were unable to hear the live stream. We seem to be getting plenty of reports from people unable to actually hear what's going on in council. This seems to be an ongoing issue. Is there something that can be done about it?
It's not an urgent item, Councillor Lee, and I know Una has that on her radar of list of things, so we'll just leave the staff to deal with that, but we're conscious of that, and I know that the staff have tried to make some amendments and changes to try and make the audio a little bit clearer, but it also helps too if we speak clearly and loudly into the microphones as well.
Well, that wasn't the issue in this case. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, councillors, moving now to confirmation of the minutes. Sorry, my computer's now just gone to sleep for a minute. On page 6, can I have a mover and a seconder as to the correctness of the minutes? Moved Councillor Kiriopa, seconded Councillor Tapsell. Are there any matters for amendment? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, thank you, that is carried. And moving on to this morning's progress report. So the first of the progress reports. I have a mover and a second to receive the Community and District Development Report. Thank you, Councillor Brown. Seconded Councillor Barker. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, thank you, that's carried. Morning, JP. So we've got your very comprehensive report, which covers quite a lot. I think we'll just take the report as read unless there's any matters that you wanted to highlight in particular.
Madam Chair, morning, and no, there's nothing I'd like to highlight. It is just progress as usual and just builds on some of the information we talked about last month.
So councillors, there's from page 11 onwards up to page 33, so I'll just give you a minute and we'll take questions to JP on this area of the report. Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for the report, JP. Interested to hear about, on page 14, the improvements to the bottom end of the Eat Street towards the lakefront, and that there's some research going on at the moment. Are you able to give us any more detail on around what's the preferred detail design, or any of the information around that at the moment?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, we engaged a traffic review of that area. If you, as you're aware, there's some challenges with that roundabout at the end of Eat Street, where it pinches tightly both sides, and also a pedestrian hazard as you cross from Lady Jane's across into the park. So 3 concepts were developed and have been tested, or are being tested now, with some of the retailers and businesses in that area, and also just receiving an engineering review too on traffic safety. So once that's complete, we'll be in a position just to report back to you about what the proposed options should be there in that space.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you. Thank you for your report, JP. Lots to digest. Starting with page 12 of the agenda, page 1 of your report, 26% reduction in violent offences in the CBD between November and May of 24. That's pretty exciting. Positive stats there. Have we had any feedback from the residents of the Glenholme area who seem to believe that the crime has just shifted from CBD to their area. Have we had any engagement with them?
We haven't, but I can report that I attended the community liaison group within the last couple of weeks, where we had one of the police inspectors present some information, some heat maps around crime statistics in the Glenholm and Fenton Street area. So they actually produced comparisons between 2022 calendar year and 2023 calendar year, which showed a significant reduction in crime levels in a similar sort of way as what you saw from the statistics we provided for the Central Business District. So that was quite clear and provided to that community liaison group. So there has been a change, and certainly the police had reported anecdotally they had felt quite significant change between 2022 and 2023, and the statistics they provided to that CLG meeting backed that up. Probably the area of concern that remains between both the Glenholm Fenton Street area and the CBD is there's been less of a change around crime within the Central Mall area.
Thank you. That's great news. If I may, page 13 of the agenda, page 2, under the heading Housing and Business Development Capacity Assessment. Following on from Chris Bishop's recent Going for Housing Growth announcements, do our current targets align, and is there any opportunity for us to access funding that they talk about through the central government funding schemes?
Councillors, as you're aware, I think our HBA was produced in 2021, and Minister Bishop has suggested a raft of changes to both the RMA and the National Policy Statement on Urban Development. That probably aligns with us doing our update of our housing and business assessment across the last 6 months of this year. That will give us the chance to say, look, we now understand what Plan Change 9 has done to our capacity. And that will then enable us to align any future plan changes or decisions that we may be enabled to do to follow that. So I think we've got to have a lens on what legislation changes are being proposed, but also update our housing and business assessment so we're in the best place to make some decisions going forward.
A supplementary question based on that. Making MDRS optional. So we were actually included in that list, Tier 1 and RLC. It says here, councils will be given the ability to alter or remove the MDRS, providing they demonstrate compliance with their housing growth targets, and councils will be required to hold a ratification vote on the matter. And then it goes a little further to say, if the outcome of the ratification vote is a decision to alter or remove the MDRS, councils will be required to start work on a plan change to do this. Now, that all takes a bit of time. So if we have to go down the plan change path, certainly we would need to do the vote first. Doesn't that make it seem like we should be doing that in the very near future rather than waiting till October for our HBA, and then, you know, this could take a couple of years?
He hasn't actually enabled any of the legislation to make that step. And as you're aware, these signals, and if you look at the fact sheets, it talks about a number of changes that will go through, obviously bills, select committees, and alterations to legislation that won't come into effect potentially until second quarter of 2025. So I think the challenge there is making sure we've got that correct alignment and the information, because the second part of that decision about ratification or exiting of MDRS is a requirement that we have capacity. Now, that may lead to a requirement that we have to zone additional greenfield areas or consider higher density areas. So I think there's an important step here of making sure the legislation's complete and we have information to make an informed decision about our next step.
Just to confirm, then that would be the first step is getting our HBA sorted, so we'll have that information for us ready for around October, and then we can look at how things progress after that. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Thank you.
I think our CE just wants to make a comment too.
Thank you, Madam Chair. all councillors and Councillor Patterson, as you're aware, there's quite a lot of information coming out of central government at the moment. Some of that is programmed into a time frame on when it's going to turn into legislation, and some of it isn't. So what we're doing is, more broadly than this issue, is looking at all of what we can see and trying to program that into a work program for council over the next 12 months, so that you get some visibility on when these things are going to land. Some of them are going to be responsive to the timeframes in legislation, and some of those are going to land a bit more sympathetically to the workload that you already have and staff already have, given the constraint resources and the envelopes you've approved in the long-term plan. Thank you.
Just have one different question. So moving to page 22, talking about community safety, which is page 11 of your report, particularly referencing the closed circuits TV, our CCTV network. So after my car accident at the end of June, the policeman who took me to the hospital told me that we're going to lose access to the cameras owned by Waka Kotahi due to privacy issues. So has this happened, and are we going to try and stop that?
Short answer is nationally there's a range of conversations being undertaken around maintaining access to Waka Kotahi cameras. So that has been led by the police, and certainly from a local government perspective we're also interested in the outcome of that. So it is an ongoing conversation.
Thank you.
I think you wish to make a comment just on that.
Yes, thank you. We have had an update on this. As Mayor, I've written to both the Minister of Transport and also the Minister of Police and the Chair of New Zealand Transport Agency with our concerns regarding this, because yes, it will have a serious impact. We're yet to get a satisfactory answer back, but we will continue to advocate for the importance of those cameras for our community safety.
And I also raised the question at the last meeting to Councillor Patterson with Commander Nafika around the police needing access to those cameras as well. So I think there's a good piece of work where we're trying to advocate that we maintain access to those cameras at no cost to us, of course.
Great.
Any further questions, councillors? Oh, Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. JP, on page 14, there's a reference to the sale at 283 Clayton Road, which is about a paragraph long. I'm grateful to the local democracy reporter for giving us a bit more information, including how much land was sold and for how much. Looking at the prices of properties in the area, it doesn't seem like $750,000 is a good deal for the ratepayers of Rotorua for 6,422 square metres.
Councillor, probably a short answer is we make sure we get an accurate valuation of a piece of property, and the key piece there is that we have a land disposal policy that dictates how close and around that valuation we can sell property, and that was part of the report that you received some time ago. I'd go further in saying the land is actually quite constrained. There's some quite significant slope, and we actually had a sewage pipe going across the site as well. So all of those affect that valuation and ultimately its sale price.
Okay, would you be able to provide me with a copy of this relevant policy, please?
Yeah.
All those policies are uploaded to Stella and shared with you.
Okay, thank you very much. But what was that one called, sorry?
Across it, Thomas, I think it's the property disposal policy, or... Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through the Chair, thank you very much for your comprehensive report. JP, could I ask you, the Papakainga toolkits, when do you envisage that being ready to be rolled out? Thank you.
Well, Councillor, I don't have an answer for that. My understanding, we're talking to the consultants who helped us with Plan Change 9, and so helped us undertake the rules. So they've been contracted to prepare the key information. We're also talking to Te Tato about working with mana whenua just to raise the profile and make sure the focus of that toolkit document is accurate. So probably talking the next 2 or 3 months.
Thank you. And sorry, just a follow-up question. The applications for the consented motels, have we received And could you tell me where we're at with the panel, please, hearings panel?
We have received those applications. They were received on the 14th of June. The staff went through a process of vetting them, which is a statutory requirement. We had some further requests for information, so those have been finalised now. We took the opportunity of saying, look, there's an important continuity here, so we reached out to the commissioners who were part of the previous hearing process 2 years ago, and we've only been able to secure the chair availability to continue, and we think that that's a valid option, is to use that same chair again for continuity. So he's been confirmed, and we're now just looking at whether or how big a panel we actually need for the hearing process later in the year.
Thank you. So could I ask, and sorry, I only raised this because I've actually asked this several months ago before the consents were received. I stated that I would prefer that we had the panel ready to go, so as soon as we had received these applications, I appreciate we reached out to those previous who are no longer available, but we seem to be, some people may think that we seem to be dragging our feet on this. So could I just have some form of confirmation that this process will be tidied up very quickly and that we can schedule these hearings as quickly as possible?
So through Madam Chair, probably the easiest approach I can take is I can circulate the timeframes. Now the timeframes are, we're certainly not dragging our heels, and it is governed by the statutory requirements around the request for further information, the circulation of information, the public hearing process, and all of those things are itemised, so I can circulate that in a timetable to give you some confidence that we're certainly not dragging our heels.
Thank you. And Councillor O'Brien, if I capture that as an action point for JP to circulate that for the next meeting, the timelines in relation to the consents.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And if I could just have one final supplementary on this, are you in a position to confirm, is the application only for 1 year, ending in December 2025? Are you allowed to?
Look, outside of physically reading them, which I haven't, but the team have confirmed they have been as stated. They are for 1 year.
Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just, sorry, I should have raised this before, while I was chatting to you before. Now, it's kind of loosely connected to the housing dashboard. I've received a number of emails this week and another one this morning from the concerned residents of the area that borders the development on the corner of Ferry Springs and Amokura Street. And now they've added the weight of probably some of our most high-profile tourism businesses to this issue. That's Rotorua Canopy Tours, Skyline Rotorua, Mitai Rotorua, Zorb Rotorua, Amokura Glass, Mini Golf Rotorua, Ripple Motel, Ferry Springs Motel, Awa Motel, 3D Art Gallery and the Adventure Playground. They're all very concerned with the situation with the development that Kāinga Ora has instigated and is nearly completed. Not so much with the design or the look of it, more with the tenants that they are potentially having in there. Now, this particular individual said they had a meeting with one of the KO representatives, and I quote, the person says, gang members and similar antisocial behaviours. When I asked if that was going to be going on, she said it was very likely. Now, that's not something that I would like to hear from a representative from Kāinga Ora, for starters. But how is it that sorry, I'll rephrase my question.
Sorry, point of order, Madam Chair. I just want to do a point of order on relevance. It's very hard for us to bring to a council table he said, she said, that we're not a part of or we have no control over. So I just want to be a little bit careful about putting on council record discussions from others.
Thank you,
and this is not a development of council, so it's just important that we understand that.
Understand that. So
Councillor Patterson, perhaps is there a question?
Yes, there is a question right here.
If we could.
So is there an opportunity as advocates, which you rightly pointed out, Mayor Tapsell, we are, can we get together with the concerned parties and act as mediators to see if we can come up with some solution? Is there any opportunity that we can do that?
I think you're asking a political question, so that's not one I could or should answer. I would have probably suggested if someone's been dissatisfied with an answer they've had from a staff member at Kaingaora, would be to have directed that further up the management tree within Kaingaora, and obviously we've had Darren Toy, who's the regional director here in the past. I would have encouraged them to go directly to Darren for a conversation. Beyond that, I think it's in your sphere.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Lee?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Further to the previous, I have checked Stella, and there is a folder called policy, and it has just a list of policies in it, so it doesn't actually have that particular policy available in it.
Well, perhaps I'll just take that as an action point for Una to circulate that policy to councillors.
Are they available to the public as well, these policies, or any reason why they wouldn't be?
They are on the website, Councillor Lee, and I'm sure that we actually discussed this at the time we made the decision to dispose of that property back in a council meeting. I can't remember which month it was, but we did make the decision here at council, and that was referred to then, and the guidelines were followed in terms of the disposal of that property.
I'm just looking across at the democracy team over the back, and I suspect the answer is there probably on our website. Maybe I just ask Debbie to maybe go to microphone and just...
No, Una's just confirmed that they are on the website, so and as an action point we'll separately circulate a copy of that to councillors. Thank you. Looks like we've exhausted all the questions for JP this morning. Oh, Councillor Wang.
Sorry, just one last quick one. Thank you, JP, for the report. Just necessary revitalisation. I know that it's obviously it was established. I'm not too aware of when it was, I guess, the initiative as a whole was reviewed. I don't, just because I guess the context around it is, I don't want us to become, I guess, complacent in just letting it kind of run its course without regarding its original intended purpose, knowing that it is a very important, nightlife and contributor to our local economy. And offering. Are you able to touch on whether or not there's any potential things that we could look into in regards to that?
Councillor, you touched on a really important discussion that we need to have, and so one of the intentions that we have has been some time since Eat Street was established, and ownership and the focus of Eat Street has changed over time. I think there's an important conversation to be had about is that focus still correct, and if it is, how do we maintain the quality and the focus that we do have around Eat Street? Obviously, and it's been a corresponding issue, a number of people have also been involved in understanding that it's time now to start looking at our local alcohol policy for the city, and for that also requires things like hours of operation. Now, as we start focusing on a city that is seeing more and more people living or hotels going into that vicinity, it's also that tension between a vibrant nightlife and making it unsleepable in those areas. So the conversation's important to be had around the focus of Eat Street as our policies, and make sure that's really clear with the businesses that operate and the expectations of our community, but also it leads into our wider policy discussion. So all of that will be part of our inner city focus over the next year or two.
Thank you, councillors. Thank you, JP, for your report. Move on now to page 34 of the agenda. So can I ask for a mover and a seconder to receive the progress report for corporate services, arts, culture and mahi toi? It's moved Councillor Brown, Councillor Waru. All those in favour, please say aye. Please say aye. Those against, thank you, carried. And morning to Jolene, Stewart and Thomas. So I understand this morning, Stewart and Jolene, you'll talk to meetings, which I know that some of the councillors were able to have a little walk through down there. So over to you.
Morena koutou katoa. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. Just wanted to give you a brief overview of the hostings of the meetings event at the Energy Event Centre and the Sir Howard Morrison Centre in June this year. I also wanted to speak to those components of meetings. Meetings was a greater event than that for the city and for the destination, and overall it was a highly successful event and week for Rotorua. So what is meetings? So it's the largest national trade show for business events in New Zealand. There's other likes around the world. There's AIM in Australia, there's IMEX in Frankfurt. It's where venues like ourselves and destinations like ourselves go to sell our offerings to business events clients from around that area or that region. So the opportunity for us is to sell our venues and our destination to potential clients. So the week of meetings was held a number of activations and activities for delegates being hosted by our industry with functions, breakfasts and for meals. Skyline Skyrides hosted the grand finale, which was a Rio Carnival evening. Rotorua NZ were the destination hosts for this event. So it's really important that that you understand that they actually led these aspects of the week for Rotorua and that we worked alongside them to help with those deliverables. And I'm sure that Andrew in his presentation will speak in more detail to that. So I don't want to take anything away from their mahi that they did over that time. More importantly, I wanted to speak about what we were looking after, which was the Energy Event Centre and the Sir Howard Morrison. So one of the big components of the BIA was the hosting of the pōhiri at the Sir Howard Morrison Centre. So alongside them and Rotorua NZ, we worked closely with Kingi Biddle from our Te Amorangi unit to ensure that the pōhiri was delivered in the appropriate manner for the event. And what I must say about the BIA team was that they were highly engaged and respectful and wanted to ensure that they delivered this important part of their event appropriately, acknowledging mana whenua and the iwi of Rotorua. I do like that image. We were fortunate to be blessed with great weather and there was a plan B. Otherwise, we went into action, but safety was an important part of the consideration for planning for this part of the event, and so there was a small road closure that was arranged to ensure that our manuhiri could be welcomed safely. Whetūrangi here. The team at Sir Howard Morrison have a strategic resident company partnership, and I believe that Janelle has spoken to this at a previous meeting. This is with Te Whare Tāpiri o Te Aroa. It's from here that they collaborated with them on the idea to present this segment as part of the meeting's welcome. It was commissioned by BEIA to present and deliver this piece of work, which aligned well with Rotorua NZ's theme and BEI's theme, which was Matariki. It was 4 months of meetings between all suppliers and planners to coordinate the detail and to make sure that this was a seamless launch event. And it featured the original score and 9 young performers from Te Aroa. And what an impact this made on the opening part of our meetings event for our manuhiri. The performers represented each star of Matariki and were suspended in the ceiling as they performed. As manuhiri left the Sir Owen Glenn Theatre, they were encapsulated with this striking performance. I do have a short video of this presentation, but we will play that at the end. So at the completion of the performance, guests moved through to the Te Aumihi foyer and Te Whakaruruhau to network, connect and enjoy our hospitality. And they were also entertained by one of our local emerging musicians. It's important to showcase our spaces and capability and versatility at events like this, and so the utilisation of multiple spaces in the Sir Howard Morrison is important. When I talk about versatility, I also want to point out that at the completion of this event, the room was reset to host a breakfast the following morning with guest speaker Jahan Casanata. So when everyone went home, a crew come in break that all down and reset for a breakfast. Meanwhile, at the Energy Events Centre, the venue was in preparation to host the two-day trade show the following day. I wanted to put up there what it takes to deliver an event like this. It took 5 days to build. And then we did 2 days of business, and then it took 3 days to pack it out. I think sometimes when we run events, we don't realise we arrive and it's ready, and we leave. But we don't realise what it takes to actually present the building in that context. And I can go into more detail about how many numbers of carpet tiles and things like that had to go in, but that will be for another presentation. I'd just like to point out that design builds take longer. So meetings, and some of you have been to it, those are what we call design builds. So they are custom-made presentations of the sites and locations that they're representing, compared to some of our events where it's panels. So they're a shorter build time. The event was last hosted in our venue in 2011. I'd just like to point out that was a result of the Christchurch earthquake. So it was actually programmed to be hosted in Christchurch that year. The earthquake happened February, and we were contacted as a venue to host it in that time. So this is the first time the event has come to our city purposefully. I did need to show you the sports drone. So the sports drone was transformed to host the morning tea lunches. It was a market theme, and we created it using the farmers' market barrows. Utilising this part of the venue for hospitality gave delegates room to meet and greet and have their breaks in comfort, and that was some feedback that we got from them. Sometimes in other venues, you're kind of compacted in. I'd just like to say it was a busy week for the team at the event hub, working across our facilities, and whilst we deliver these events, whilst we host this size conference and events often in the course of our business, the team did understand that we were not only hosting potential sales and potential clients, but we were also hosting our industry colleagues and in some respects our competitors. So there was an element of mana required to deliver this event. So now our team are going to be turning our heads to hosting another great event next year, which is Trends 2025. I just wanted to tag on another great event that we hosted, which is the Matariki Drone Show down at the lakefront. Now this came in straight after meetings, so whilst the EEC was being reset to host the Matariki basketball tournament, at the lakefront preparation was underway to host the inaugural Matariki Drone Show. And so the drone show in itself was actually organised by the Aranui Indigenous Arts Festival, and it was working alongside a company from Perth called First Lights Presents. The drone and light show was created by Māori artists Siana Lees-White and Mataya Kepa, and by all accounts, the event exceeded all expectations in terms of numbers and impact. We met with the organisers yesterday to debrief the event. Certainly were some learnings, and they're also conducting a survey as well, which they will share with us in terms of the measurable impacts of the event and gathering feedback from attendees. But so far, they've had over 1,000 responses, and they've all been very positive. Our role in helping to support the Matariki Drone Show was not only to facilitate, as the lakefront is one of our spaces that we provide as bookable, but also it was decided early on as part of the planning to relocate the night market to the lakefront to support and contribute to the experience and the atmosphere of the event. And did it do its thing? Yes, it did. There were over 5 new vendors that formed part of the market, and some of the vendors had opted to only do one night, but after the success of the first night, they requested to return for the second night. The vibe was great, and all the vendors left with positivity and smiles. I've just included up there in the list is just the number of vendors, and some of the extra event infrastructure that we needed to bring in, not only mostly to make it safe and comfortable for all those in attendance. And in terms of the actual numbers of attendance, there's numerous figures out there, but there was certainly a lot more than we were expecting. By all accounts, it was a fantastic 2 nights for the city, and we even did receive some positive feedback through our council information email, where it literally said, "Take a bow, Rotorua Lakes Council." And it was anonymous as well, so we can't thank that person. So hopefully we'll be able to play a video.
Thank you very much, Jolene, for a very comprehensive presentation. So, councillors, are there any questions for Jolene on this part of the presentation, or any other general questions to Stuart and Thomas on the rest of the report? Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, that was exciting. Just wondering, carrying on from that, it might be too soon to know, but any idea of forward projections from business that we've secured through that?
There were certainly some leads that came from the appointment streams that we hosted at meetings, and we'll be able to report on that later once I'd like to report confirmed business.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Jolene. A brilliant report on wonderful things happening in our city and in our venues. And meetings, I mean, thinking about it, that's 13 years ago since the last one that was held here. I'm sure we're going to be on the radar in the future. We'd love it here every year, but no later. Wonderful with that. And now also on the opening with meetings being held in there, that's a new pōhiri, first time in front of the big theatre and closing the street off. That is neat. And that is our point of difference, Maori culture. Question, so Aronui also brought the big show drones here, but we were part of it and we contributed some funding towards it. The figure off the top of my head, I can't remember.
Yes, the council did contribute to the drone show through the Events Investment Fund. We contributed $10,000 towards that event.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? This is for the rest of the report as well. I just had one, and which was just in relation to the night market. It was great to see the impact that had by combining the two events together. But late last year we actually had a presentation around the night market and the cost to the community around that. And the question was, are we still delivering the outcomes that we want to for the night market? And given that we're into winter and we often get rain and the event gets cancelled, is there an opportunity to just have a look at the what we intend to deliver with that event? Is it still delivering the outcomes that we want in the CBD, or is it time for a refresh and a rethink about the night market?
Thank you for the question. Look, it's always a good time to review our operations. I mean, the original intent with the night market was to bring some inter-city vibrancy. You know, since then we've developed the lakefront. There could be some options for the future. We certainly come back to you after review. It is still very well supported. and the feedback we get from our community on regular surveys is quite positive. The night market itself has probably taken on a brand all of its own, and certainly from the economic benefit to store holders, it's grown significantly since we first started, nearly 10 years ago. But certainly more than happy to have a review.
Thank you, Stuart. Perhaps, are there other questions around this? Otherwise, I'm going to just make a suggestion. Okay, well, we'll take the questions around the night market first, then I'll come back. So, Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through the Chair. Thank you, Stuart. Could I ask you, last year you gave us some figures. Sorry, I can't recall if it was in confidential or not, so I won't repeat. But you discussed the loss that was being carried by Council for the night market. Has that financial situation improved? And are you able to give us any update on those figures, or is it still approximately roughly the same situation?
It's still approximately the same situation off the top of my head. I can certainly come back with a more detailed report in the next progress report. It does need to be reviewed. I mean, there are a number of things, obviously, with the night market in terms of disruption within the inner city. Not necessarily the original intent was to try and bring vibrancy, to try and get other shops to open at night. We haven't really seen that. But once again, it's still a fantastic operation to deliver, and maybe a relocation, we could do it less expensively. Our biggest cost is really the setup and traffic management.
Thank you. And one supplementary, if I may. Are you able to, in a position to give me any indication, or the council any indication, what's the breakdown of the market holders in terms of locality? Are most of them locals, or is it half and half? I do know there's a lot that come out of town. Are you able to give me is it 50-50, or is it?
I can't answer that off the top of my head, but I'm more than happy to provide that to you after the meeting.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, Stuart, if given that you would need to report back to Council, could we take it as an action point then that you would come back at, I don't know, you mentioned the next meeting, I don't know if that's going to be too tight a time frame, but to report back on the night market, the outcomes, are we still delivering it? Is there an opportunity to deliver it in a better way that's or other venues, or just looking at the night market in general, I think is the question, given that we've seen the success of it down at the lakefront with the Matariki. Would you be comfortable with that, or you want to make a comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Might I take that as something that goes into my 12-month work program that I referred to earlier, and map out when we'll bring that to you?
Okay, thank you. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your leniency. Just before we leave this subject, could we perhaps ask for the next of this meeting, or perhaps the following month, that we have a financial update on those questions around the night market, just so we know where it sits fiscally. Nothing to do with the 12-month, but just so we have some idea of where that's sitting. Thank you.
Thank you. If that could just be included in the normal progress report. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Waru?
Tēnā koe te tiamana, o tira tātou katoa, morena, kia ora, kia ora. Tahi akira gai te mihi, kia koe Jolene. Thank you for the report and the real positive, actually. I like hearing those positive presentations, and indeed I can attest to what you're talking about, being snooping around in the meetings, kaupapa for a while. I even jumped at the back there to go and brag about it here. So thank you, and ngā mihi ki tō ki o hoa mahi I ka whakapaukaha ki te whakatutuki I ngā mea katoa o te kaupapa. So thank you. My question is really around the museum, actually, the education program. Can I ask this? I can ask it in this now. One is the number of students first. How many students, is there a target that you know, for numbers that you have annually? Because I've never seen it.
We used to have a target with Ministry of Education in terms of a funding agreement. Those targets have dropped off a little bit since the museum has been closed. Historically, around about 11,000 kids used to come through to the museum when the museum was open, and around 45% of those came from out of town, so they would stay here for 2-3 nights and do some of the activities. We've seen a drop-off in the out-of-town visitors numbers, to be expected with the museum being closed. But I think this last year, I think around 6,000, 6,500 still through the classroom, most of those locals. But since this last year, we're starting to see some of those groups, primarily from Auckland, starting to return. And of course, they come through the Rotorua Education Network managed by Rotorua NZ.
Oh, kapai, thank you. That's positive then. It's building. The question again around students. So the age groups, what's the range? What's the age range? Because I've seen a few different ones here. Is there any particular age range?
Yeah, you're going to have to forgive me, I'm not really up with the years that schools use these days. But primarily we go from intermediate school right the way through to high school. We've done the odd preschool when the museum was open, where they would book in as an individual, not necessarily as an educational experience, but as an organised visit to the museum. But primarily, they are from year 1 through to 13, is it? I think. Yeah.
No, that's great. Yeah, I've just seen a whole lot of different. I suppose there's seen from kohanga actually, kohanga all the way to senior students at high school. So I was just wondering if that was all part of the plan. So no kapai, it's available to all children. My last question, sorry, and it's again about rangatahi, the museum youth group. Representatives, what exactly is their role, and are they involved at all in the design mahi for the new museum?
Their main role was to have a youth voice into what the museum does when it reopens. So they've been engaging now for quite some time in various different groups, as also as the engagement team has been out around a number of our schools, gaining that feedback in terms of what the youth want to see within the new wharetonga when it opens. So this group has been selected to continue on that engagement beyond that initial engagement about exhibition development. So this is an ongoing commitment.
Thank you. Ami.
Thank you. Councillor Wang.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. Firstly, just again, thank you for the report and the presentation and the video. I think it's just so great to see the success of both meetings, 2024 and also the Matariki drone show. It looks like it's been has been and will be a very busy 2 months for the venues, and again, it's just so great to see the attendance in such high numbers for those events, and I'm sure we'll all be looking forward to Trends 2025 as well. And again, I think just really like to thank your team, but particularly the partners and Aronui Indigenous Arts Festival for putting that drone show on. And I think if anyone was there, I know the Mayor and Councillor Barker and probably quite a few others as well attended that as well, and just saw the numbers. It was huge. I personally know of so many that came from out of town that came to attend and to view both nights of that show. And so I guess following on from that, I know that we were supposed to be holding another separate event to celebrate Matariki, but unfortunately that wasn't able to be held, and I know that this is probably more
Councillor Wing, have you got a question?
I'm getting onto it now, thank you. Onto Aneta and potentially Warwick's area, but I guess just on future years, we've seen how successful it is. It's a strength for us. What work is there going on potentially for the year after? Because I know that this has been led by Aronui. Is there any work, I guess, in the future year for us to be able to lead and celebrate this?
Look, there is ongoing discussions with Aronui Trust currently. Look, and Jolene said, we've just had a debrief of the event, but they've got a little work to do, obviously. This event was funded externally quite an expensive event to put on, so we've got to look at, in terms of assisting them, how we get a more sustainable model moving forward. But, you know, Matariki is very much on our radar as a destination to own that event for our city and to attract visitors, and so I think it's just a work in progress right now.
Thank you.
Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Exciting weekend ahead. So we have two massive tournaments on, one at the stadium and one at Puketawhero Park with 3,000 players and supporters, no doubt, happening both. That's fantastic that you can pull off both events at the same time. Well done. My question is around a conference that I spotted. What is the Community Governance Aotearoa 2024 conference on the 12th of November at the Sir Howard Morrison Centre?
I think, Councillor Patterson, that might be someone that's booked the venue to hold that conference, so it's
yes,
not
it
a...
is. Yeah.
So,
I don't have the detail, but I can provide that for you.
Thank you.
Councillor Maxwell.
Kia ora. Thank you. On page 43 there at the Sir Howard Morrison Centre, can I ask the question of, you're having, looking at it, investigating opportunities for the circus work by Dust Palace. Can you give me an update on any progress? The reason I'm asking this is that they are, if I recall, I'm sure this is an act that performed at our lakeside some 10 years ago. It is? Okay, and the people went to Western Heights High School, or the two artists. Yeah, what's an update on that one?
Look, I can't give you specifics, but Janelle is certainly working with a number of organisations to book in opportunities coming forward. So Dust Palace also presented at the gala function when we opened as well. And so they're looking at bringing in something a little bit more special, a little bigger, but I really can't give you too much information on that, and it's a bit commercially sensitive as well.
Okay. Thank you. Now, this can end just further, if I can. In here are some figures saying about that very popular drone show, but you only got 5K there. That might have been 5K down the lakefront, but wasn't there 30,000 people watching it? So aren't figures good if you put in the bigger figure?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. And had we had the foresight to know what the numbers were being before we put the paper together, we would have put the bigger number in, I can assure you. Yeah, that was an estimate we assumed at the time.
Okay. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, that Matariki Drone Show looked quite impressive. That was organised by council, is that right? Or no, it's not organised by council. No,
okay. Council played a supporting role, an enabling role for them to deliver it down the lakefront. So we assisted with them, like the health and safety, right, on-site briefings, a number of meetings down the lakefront prior to the event itself. Okay. So that's where we play an enabling support role. Aranui developed the presentation with First Light out of Perth.
Right. And was that, was there a cost to the ratepayers for assisting with that, and if so, how much?
I think Councillor Lee, I think he's already, Stuart's already answered that question before.
Oh, sorry, I must have missed it. Sorry.
Yeah, so through the investment fund, we contributed $10,000 to that event.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I think, councillors, we've had a good question session on this part of the report, so can I thank Jolene, Stuart and Thomas for making yourself available to answer questions, and thank you for the presentation, Jolene. We've only got one more item that's left on the agenda, which is the confidential minutes for adoption if there are no corrections. If there are no corrections, then we do not need to move into public excluded. So can I ask for a mover and a second at the confidential minutes of the Community and District Development Committee held on the 12th of June be confirmed as a true and correct record? Moved Councillor Wang, seconded by Councillor Barker. No matters for correction. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Thank you. That is carried. And closing karakia, Mayor Tapson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you. Kia whakeiri ai te tapu, kia wātea ai te ara, kia turu ki whakataha ai, kia turu ki whakataha ai. Haumie, huie, tai ki.
Thank you, councillors. I declare the meeting closed at 10:24. I'll just check, we have a workshop on coming up after this, whether or not we'll run this at 11:30 or earlier. Oh, okay, sorry, it's advertised at 11:30, so councillors will take a break now and we'll resume at 11:30 for the accessibility workshop in here. Thank you.